Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Motorsport Speak, Motorsport podcast brought to you by Motorsport Week and Motorsport Monday. My name's Dan Lawrence and joining me is Eden Hannigan. And no, despite my old Crescent Suzuki top I'm wearing, we're not talking about British Superbikes, we're talking about MotoGP. And we had the Spanish Grand Prix at Jerez, a historic moment as Alex Marquez took his first full race win in the Premier class and making the Marquez brothers the first to both take MotoGP race victories. So let's get stuck into all of it. But Eden, first of all, how are you? And did you enjoy the action at Jerez?
Yeah, I'm good, and I very much enjoyed the action. It was a interesting weekend. It didn't look like it was going to turn out that way after the sprint, but some surprise results in the main race, and a very, very good and a very, very happy podium. So that's always a great thing to see.
Yeah, it was awesome, really. I mean, I think when we last spoke, or basically every time we've spoken about MotoGP, it's been the conversation of, is Alex Marquez going to get a race victory? When's he going to do it? When's it going to happen? And I think it's fair to say maybe happened a bit sooner than we thought. But his form has warranted, I think, this result. And yes, he got maybe a bit of help from his brother in the race, didn't he? With Marc falling off at turn 8, pushing a little bit too hard, but it was a really good race victory, I thought, from Alex. His pace was there all weekend and sort of cementing, I guess, maybe his place as a title contender. What's your feelings?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with the sentiment that came a bit sooner than I was expecting. I was thinking that around this track, if we were going to get a duel for the race victory, I was definitely not expecting it to be between Alex Marquez and a Yamaha. I was more expecting it to be between the two factory Ducatis, but it was a completely deserved victory from Alex. It almost shouldn't have happened because on the first lap, he did a very typical Alex Marquez move and almost took out Pecco Bagnaia and his brother, which could have resulted in disaster, but instead he just ran wide at turn 6, got back on it straight away, and was phenomenal ever since. And I just think that it was very, very deserved. And I think that he had fantastic pace all around. It was fantastic to see Grassini get back to winning ways because their celebrations always look fantastic when you see the shots in the pit lane and on social media afterwards. So, yeah, thoroughly deserved victory for Alex. And it does make you question whether he is reformed enough in his mistakes to truly challenge for that title.
Yeah, he's a point in the lead, I think. And obviously Marquez, again, I think this is the second time now he's thrown away a race victory by being a bit too overzealous. Not from the front this time as it was in Kota. Obviously pushing to, I think, get that initiative early on in the race because he had a tricky start. Obviously those great sort of bashing moments with Bagnaia, which I think was exciting to see the two teammates at Ducati going to war. My opinion on it is I think Alex is probably going to maintain his place as best of the rest. I know he's a point in the lead of the championship, but I think that kind of speaks to that, is that Marquez has had 2 crashes now and he's only a point behind. And, the last time he had his crash, he was able to build up a points gap again. I think he's going to keep doing that. I think he knows. I think more often than not, he's going to be in a position of comfort. He's not really been pushed for any of his race victories. And I think this was a moment we saw he was having to push a little bit because he had lost ground at the start. But I think more often than not, he's going to be in a position of comfort. And I think Marc will take the title still. But given that Bagnaia is really not getting to grips with the GP25 and Alex's consistency, I think it's going to be a Marquez 1-2 in the championship. And a breakout year, I guess, for... It always takes him time, doesn't it, Alex? It took him time in Moto3. It took him time in Moto2 to get into championship winning contention. And it's taken him quite a long time to get to grips in MotoGP. But maybe not a title contender. I don't think Marc's going to throw away the title. But he's going to maybe make it difficult for himself. How do you see? Is that kind of how you'd see it playing out?
Yeah, I think it's definitely an interesting one because for me the question mark is over Francesco Bagnaia. I think he's had a better season undoubtedly than already as to the start he made to 2024, but he's still 20 points behind another satellite bike. And the problem for Bagnaia this season hasn't been the crashing, it's been the pace just hasn't been there to challenge either Marc or Alex. I mean, of course, he got the race victory in Kota, but that was very much aided by Marquez coming off from the lead, being a bit over ambitious with the curbs in the wet race. So I think it's very interesting to see whether Bagnaia is going to be able to respond to the form of Alex Marquez, because I don't think many people expected Alex's form. I think we all knew, of course, that Marc was going to, probably dominate the championship, and it's obviously not quite turned out the way that we were expecting. But I think with many of the rounds still to come, I think we will see Marquez return to form. And as we've seen time and time again, the only person that seems to be able to beat Marc Marquez is himself. But the battle for second is definitely going to be an interesting one to keep our eye on, because I don't really know which way I think it's going to go at the moment. And I think maybe already they're a bit too far back, but potentially if somebody like a Franco Morbidelli or a Fabio Di Giannantonio got to grips with their machinery, then maybe they could enter the fight as well, because we know that they have a fair level of consistency when they're right on it.
Yeah, I think maybe for some of those Ducati, other Ducati riders, my sort of reading of it is they're going to just keep taking points off of each other, and they're probably going to have weekends where they're in the hunt for the podium or they're fighting for fourth place, but I think they're going to keep sort of maybe swapping round. I look at like Fermin Aldeguer, who's slowly getting up to speed, and in the race he was put in the fastest lap and then crashed. So I think we're going to see moments where Aldeguer really sparkles and maybe he gets involved, but I think it is a three horse race, I think mainly between the two factory boys and Alex. But yeah, interesting to see, as you said. And what also I think was very interesting was the fact that we had a Yamaha on pole and a Yamaha on the podium. And obviously being Fabio Quartararo, who else was it going to be? Taking a sensational pole position, considering none of his Yamaha compatriots were anywhere close to achieving a pole. And unfortunately falling off in the sprint, but taking a fine second place in the Grand Prix. It's an interesting one. Yamaha always classically tended to do better in the European circuits, especially the ones which were a bit more tight and twisty, which Jerez is. But given that it was kind of a one-man show for Yamaha with Quartararo, I don't think we can put much on. It might be an outlier this weekend, mightn't it, for the Frenchman?
I hope not, but it seems like it could potentially be that way, because this is also a track that Quartararo has had fantastic form around in his previous seasons as a MotoGP rider. Of course, I think he was the youngest ever rider and remains the youngest ever rider to take pole position in MotoGP in his rookie season at this circuit. Obviously, he had the back-to-back victories in 2020 as well, and it's a circuit that he's always gone well around. And I mean, it was fantastic to see that lap that he put on pole position was, I think, probably the highlight of the weekend, because nobody saw it coming. I think everyone saw the first red sector and thought, oh, okay, but he's going to fall. It's going to come away in the second and the third. But he maintained that throughout the lap, and it was just absolutely phenomenal to see. We got a little bit of a sneak preview about his, reigniting battles with Marquez in the sprint before, unfortunately, he came off. But yeah, I mean, I didn't think that I would be seeing a Yamaha leading 11 laps of a Grand Prix this season, but I've seen it. And there's been whispers around Yamaha about potentially a new engine coming in for Le Mans, not the V4, but a new inline 4. So, and Alex Rins was saying it's giving them about 2 kilometers an hour more speed on the straights. So hopefully we can start seeing the Yamaha resurgence. They're back up to second in the constructors, which is a good sight to see. But yeah, I think we'll have to wait and see for a couple more rounds and a couple of circuits that maybe Yamaha haven't historically gone as well on. Maybe give it to Austria in August, where they've historically struggled, to see whether it is true or whether it's just another false dawn.
Yes, I mean, we could also say that about KTM, couldn't we? Viñales fourth, I think, in the race, and all 4 KTMs in the top 10. which is a real good sign of progress, really, for the Austrian marque, given all of their struggles. And maybe Vinales' performances in races gone by weren't the flash in the pan that we expect from him. And he took a fine fourth, didn't he, in Jerez? Is that, again, maybe just a combination of factors coalescing in KTM's favour? We saw riders falling off in the race that did obviously impact their result to get all bikes into the top 10. Is it Vinales? Maybe he's getting to grips with this KTM. Is he going to push the KTM charge, do you think? What do you think it means for the Austrian manufacturer?
Again, it's another tough one because we went to Qatar when Maverick, of course, finished second on the road, and it was obviously taken away due to the tyre pressure penalty. And that was a very Vinales circuit. And we've now gone to a circuit where KTM have done well as well in the past. I mean, Dani Pedrosa was on the sprint podium last year as a wild card, which was just absolutely incredible. But I mean, and that was also in very, very bizarre circumstances where we had 3 of the top 5 crash in the same corner because of all of the damp patches on the circuit and things like that. So again, it's another one where I think we'll have to wait and see. I think obviously it will be a massive benefit to see KTM come to the forefront again, because obviously not only Maverick Vinales is fantastic on his day, but I think MotoGP needs Pedro Acosta to be leading the field. And again, we don't know how Acosta's going to fare in Le Mans if it is a new dawn of KTM, because he has just had arm pump surgery. So it's a difficult time for Acosta because he was looking forward to the Jerez test. He had a crash in the Jerez test, and I'm not entirely sure if he's got on with the KTM as yet, but we'll have to see, because he is saying that the signs from Vinales mean that there's positive signs hopefully to come from him as well.
Yes, indeed. And his story is very much intertwined with rumours and speculation, isn't it, Acosta? We keep hearing the talk of Honda this and Honda that, maybe even for 2026. Do you think that we're going to see one of these crazy, silly season moves and that he might make the jump to the HRC team? Do you think that's going to be a possibility, or is it merely just rumour?
I think it's just going to be rumour. I think as much as I think Honda would love to have him, I think that it won't. I don't think anything will happen until maybe 2027. I think that Acosta still is in a contract, and obviously a team, if they want to sign Acosta, they're going to have to buy him out of the contracts. And we know KTM have had heavily bound contracts in the past. We've heard that with the situation of Yamaha trying to buy out Ralph Fernandez back when he was in KTM rider back in Moto2. And it's just, I don't think it's going to happen yet, but I still think that there's doubts over whether he'll be a KTM rider after 26. But I think for now he will have to stay put, because I don't think that there are many other viable options on the grid for him.
Fair enough. And obviously, Jerez, we didn't just have racing action, we did have a test shortly afterwards. What were the main stories and talking points that came from the Jerez test? So that who were the riders coming away happy with what they discovered?
Well, Yamaha was the main one. As I previously mentioned, they are hopefully bringing in their third engine to the next round in Le Mans, which will hopefully give them a little bit more power and a little bit of the straight line speed that they have been looking for. The team director, Massimo Marigali, was very, very quick to say, this isn't the V4, it's the updated version of the inline 4. Although Augusto Fernandez said that the signs for the V4 when he did his own private test were positive, but they're saying it's not ready to be introduced in the race just yet. So they were quite happy with what they had done. And Marc Marquez also seemed to be quite happy with the work that he'd done. He'd been working on the front because that was something that he said might have caused his crash in the main race in Jerez. And obviously he came out of the test on top. He was the fastest rider, only rider of the day in the 1 minute 35s, as Marc does. So they were the main storylines, and they seemed quite happy with what they'd done. But on the other side, Bagnaia still seemed to struggle with finding the balance of the Ducati. So that's going to be, I think, a on and off storyline for the rest of the year. Can Bagnaia finally find his comfort level, and can he bring anything to Marc Marquez? Because the test kind of showed that Bagnaia has obviously been beaten on the track, but it seems like even in the test, the things aren't going the way that he wants it to either.
No, yeah, I think he's going to run out of time pretty quickly if he doesn't get on top of the GP25, and maybe even needs to switch back to the GP24. I don't know whether that's maybe admitting defeat. But yeah, Le Mans next time out, which is often producing some pretty interesting races, maybe changeable weather as it has done often in the past. What do you see happening in Le Mans? Are we going to see Marquez winning in the sprint, Marquez winning in the race? Well, we don't know which one. It's probably going to be one or the other. How would you predict the French Grand Prix playing out?
Yeah, I think that there will be a Marquez win. I'm not sure which Marquez it will be, but I lean towards there being definitely a Marquez win in the sprint. And I mean, it's so fascinating with Le Mans because you never know with the weather, with just sometimes some riders just seem to turn up in Le Mans. I think Johann Zarco has always had a good record around his home track, not so much for Fabio Quartararo, who will be going obviously off the back of his podium in Jerez, but I think it's definitely going to be an interesting race. We had some fantastic battles at the front last year, so hopefully it might be the first time we get to see a maybe not a full length race due to the limitations with the front tyre, but hopefully we get a decent race of scrapping with the two Marquez brothers and Francesco Bagnaia. I'm not sure if we will see it, but it's something that I would definitely like to see.
Fingers crossed, fingers crossed. Yeah, I mean, last year was an incredible race, wasn't it, between Martin, Marquez and Bagnaia. So let's see if we get a genuine three-way fight for the win. And let's see Marc pushed right to the end to the checkered flag. That would be great for us all to see. But it sounds like a good place to wrap things up, doesn't it? Thank you, Eden, for joining me to discuss the Spanish Grand Prix at Jerez. And thank you, listeners and watchers, for joining us. Make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to keep up to date on Motorsport Week and Motorsport Monday, and to follow us on socials at Motorsport Week on X, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, you name it, we're all there. But for now, goodbye.